Hello everybody, it is CJ McKenna, back once again for week 4 of talking about the Sensitive Nachos. Today we'll be discussing our 4th release, Broken Bones, Broken Homes, and Floor Lamps, released on March 11th, 2015. This is a quick little 5-song EP, so let's get right into discussing it. So right after we released our last album, Prime Galime, we actually had a song come out on a Nirvana covers compilation that I just want to make note of real quick. The covers compilation was called Smells Like Another Covers Album, a tribute to Nirvana, and it was one that I actually compiled. It came out on Carpet Shoes Records, which was our label, and Justin Tongle of Defective actually gave us the idea to do this. So I remember contacting a bunch of bands and artists asking if they wanted to do a cover. Some of them, I had looked up their covers, so they already had released Nirvana covers, and I just asked if we could use the ones that were already out. So yeah, I remember that, and the artwork to that is actually my mom. I made that album artwork, so that's kind of funny. But yeah, we did a cover of Floyd the Barber on there, which features Thomas on guitar, programmed drums and bass. Thomas does the verse vocals, and I actually sing the chorus. So yeah, if you guys have never heard that, I highly recommend checking it out, because there's a lot of cool covers on it. It came out on February 21st, 2015 through Carpet Shoes Records, literally a day after Prime Galime. So yeah, look for that, check it out. Just wanted to make note of that real quick before we start talking about this EP. So yeah, after that compilation album came out and after our Prime Galime album came out, we immediately started recording and writing again. Like, we literally took no breaks. We were just like nonstop, pretty much because Thomas was like a songwriting machine and because we were just like lonely kids who had nothing better to do but to work on songs. And we started working on our follow-up record, which is going to be called By Losers for Losers. I remember working on songs like Teach 'Em How to Surf and Shove 'Em Up Your Butt, Don't Know What's Going On around this time period, all songs that would later appear on the final record. So you guys are probably wondering, what about the songs on this EP that we're discussing today? When do those come into play? Well, let me tell you, this EP was so spontaneous. It wasn't even planned. We had no plans to release an EP in between By Losers for Losers and Prime Galime. It just kind of happened. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was sitting alone at my lunch table. Now remember, this is 10th grade, so Thomas and I don't have the same lunch period this year. So yeah, I was sitting alone, and I get this message from Thomas, and he's like, we should put out an EP today. We should record it when we get home. We should just put it out today. And I was like, yes, I was all about it. I always kind of got off on like really spontaneous creative projects, kind of like how the Closet Doors one was. And this was no exception. I was like all for it. I couldn't wait to go home and start working on songs. And just the thought of like releasing an EP the same day that you record it just really excited me at that time. So I remember us kind of like going back and forth with ideas while I was sitting alone at this lunch table just messaging Thomas. Now it's worth noting that this whole EP was censored off the song Alyssa. So that song is the one exception. That song was recorded beforehand, but all the other songs on this EP were recorded the same day they were released, March 11th. So yeah, school eventually lets us out, and we both go to our own houses. Once again, this EP was recorded from our separate bedrooms. You know, Thomas lived like 25 minutes away from me, so we would just send tracks back and forth through email. So when I got home, he had sent me a bunch of songs, and he's like, go ahead and add your bass to these, then just send them back to me, or add vocals, whatever I needed added, and then we would just send them back and forth with each other. As far as recording specs go, pretty much it was the same as all the other ones. You know, Thomas would go home, program the drums using GarageBand, record his guitar using his iPhone microphone, or record vocals using his iPhone as well. As far as my setup goes, once again, I had my little Fender SP10 practice guitar amp, and I would plug my bass into that, and then I would put my M-Audio Producer USB microphone in front of that little speaker and record that way. Once again, no low end at all, that really weird trebly sound again on this EP. Yeah, I really knew nothing about bass, like I was saying, but that was the sound, I guess, back in those days. And all my vocals were also recorded with my M-Audio Producer USB microphone. And this one was actually, I recorded in Reaper, not Mixcraft. So yeah, this EP was recorded in Reaper, all of my parts, but obviously all of Thomas's parts were recorded in GarageBand. So yeah, Thomas did the main mixes, and then I would just mix in whatever parts that I added, and that was that. With the exception of the song Sculptor's Cut, which was all me, so I mixed that one. But yeah, so anyway, let's go ahead and start talking about the songs. The EP starts off with one of the greatest songs Thomas has ever written in his life, Alyssa. In my opinion, this is the only song on the EP that's kind of worth it. Everything else is just kind of weird on this one. It's actually probably my least favorite release we ever did, just because it could have been better, and I'll get to why in a second. But yeah, I absolutely love this song, Alyssa. ever since I first heard it, it just completely resonated with me, and I just loved just everything about this song. Again, this is another one that I'll gush over for minutes because I just love this song so much. And I remember that like this song was like the first time that I was like really, really impressed by Thomas's writing, which is kind of crazy because, you know, he's written so many great songs even before this one. But I was so impressed because he never really wrote about personal things. I feel like a lot of his songs were just kind of made up stories. But this was something that actually had happened to him. You know, he actually did have a crush on a girl named Alyssa, which I guess I'll get into that story right now too. But yeah, I was just so impressed by the way he wrote about it and the way he expressed himself so perfectly in this song, I think. But yeah, Alyssa was this girl that went to our school that we didn't even know. Thomas had just seen her in the halls, and I guess he thought she was attractive at the time. She had this like red Hello Kitty backpack, which she's actually seen in the Making of Prime Gleim documentary. You could see her backpack in that little film on YouTube, so that's kind of funny. But yeah, Thomas was like infatuated with this girl, and he came up with this plan to try to talk to her, and the plan was terrible. I think he initially went up to her and kind of awkwardly spoke to her, but then he found her Facebook, and then he decides to message her there, and I think she asked, like, how'd you find me on Facebook? And then he blames me. He's like, oh, CJ gave it to me. And then I remember she like responded back because he showed me the messages at the time. She responded back. She was like, what? I've never even spoken to that kid in my life. Yeah, he completely threw me under the bus. But then he like apologized and said, just kidding. I found your Facebook. It was just the most awkward high school, even actually it seemed more like a middle school conversation. Just so awkward. And I remember him sending me these screenshots and just being like, ugh. This is so cringy. Either way, they started talking a little bit, and I think it was pretty obvious that she didn't really have much interest in him, which led to him writing this song. But it's kind of interesting also because the liner notes to Bye Losers for Losers thanks her. So yeah, and that record came out in May. So the timeline is kind of confusing. I guess Thomas would know the timeline. I don't really remember the story. I don't really care. It doesn't matter anymore. But yeah, this song was pretty much inspired by that whole Alyssa fiasco. But this was not the only song written about Alyssa. There was two more that for some reason did not make this EP, which still pisses me off to this day. I call them the Alyssa trilogy because there was 3 songs written about her. The first one was called Dear That One Girl, and that was sort of like Thomas's love song, infatuation song, like I don't know her name, but I want to get to know her. And I loved that song. And then there was a song called Part 2, which was sort of about him actually talking to her but struggling to keep her attention. I actually came up with the first line in that song, which inspired Thomas to write the whole song. The first line was, "Why are you always running away from me? I hate when your red backpack is the only thing I see." And then Thomas wrote the rest. So yeah, then there was that song, and then the final song of the trilogy was Alyssa, and sadly Alyssa was the only one that ended up being released. Which again, why? We should have just put them all out. All I would have had to do was just record bass to the other 2, because they were already done. So yeah, they just didn't have my bass on them. But yeah, for some reason that didn't happen, and only that one song was released on this EP. Like I was saying earlier, this song was recorded beforehand, so it was not recorded on March 11th. And this song Thomas wrote completely by himself, of course. Actually, he recorded it completely by himself as well. That's him playing acoustic guitar, that's him singing everything. I love the low harmonies he does with himself in this song. But I will say, I actually added one little word, one little harmony in this song that I don't even credit myself on because it's so little. But it's the line "bitchin' me out." On the line "out," I do like a "out" kind of harmony, which I added later. So yeah, just that one little "out" is me. But then again, he's also harmonizing with himself, so there's like multiple harmonies during that part as well. But yeah, so that's my one contribution to this song, but I don't even credit myself because this is all Thomas. Once again, one of my favorite songs he's ever written. I love this song. I love the references too, like, except I'm not Jarrett Reddick and you're not bitching me out. He also references Masked Intruder, he was a big fan of. So yeah, I love the references, love this song. Another quick thing that I'll mention about this song is that about a year later after this one came out, Ryan Hamilton of Smile Smile and People on Vacation fame was actually starting his own record label, and he was taking open submissions. And Thomas actually submitted this song to his record label, and he recorded a live performance of him just playing this song alone in his bedroom. And I think I was the one who was like, you should send that song in, because anybody who hears that song and doesn't sign you is an idiot. Nothing came of it. He didn't get picked, but yeah, I still stand by my statement. Like, I don't know how somebody could listen to this song and just not think that this song is amazing and not want to immediately sign this artist. But yeah, so I just wanted to make note of that real quick. Anyway, track 2 is, well, sure he can talk, but is he saying anything? The title of that actually comes from the 2003 film The Cat in the Hat, which I guess Thomas had watched around that time. Now, the interesting thing about it is that the Bandcamp version of this song, there's a sample from The Cat in the Hat at the end of the song, but for the streaming version of the song, like the one that's on Apple Music and Spotify, I actually took it out just so we wouldn't get copyrighted. So yeah, if you listen to this record on Bandcamp and if you download it there, you'll get the actual version. But yeah, the streaming one doesn't have that little sample at the end, so I just wanted to make note of that real quick. But yeah, this is a weird one. This is more of a noisy, kind of strange tune. Thomas was really into the Butthole Surfers and Flipper, and I think that really comes off in this track. Once again, this song was written completely by Thomas. All of the lyrics, all of the music was completely Thomas. Thomas programmed the drum beat, and then he obviously recorded all of his guitar parts and all of his vocal parts, and he made me sing the first verse of this song, which obviously I used my M Audio Producer USB microphone to record. I remember holding it in my hand. I didn't even have a pop filter. I just kind of sang it in my weird metal voice. Me and my friend, we thought we could pretend. That kind of voice. So that's me in that first verse. And the other thing I'll mention about this song is that the bass riff that goes... That was actually something that Thomas had came up with. He really wanted me to play that part, and he sent me like a little voice memo of him playing it on guitar, and he was like, play this for the bass. And yeah, that was a great choice because I like the little bass part. So he came up with that as well. This is a weird one, but I kind of get a kick out of it because it's just really strange. Anyway, track 3 is DLW, which stands for Dogs Like Waffles. So this is another one that was written probably a couple weeks before it actually came out. I found a demo of it that Thomas had sang by himself not too long ago, actually. But yeah, this is a really short song, really stupid song, too, that Thomas made me sing. Because the interesting thing about this song is that there's DLW and then there's HBS, both songs in this EP, and they're the same exact music, they just have different lyrics and different words to them. So they're the same stupid short song, but just different words for both of them. So Thomas wanted to sing HBS, and he made me sing this song, DLW, which I really wasn't having at the time because I was really against singing it because I just thought it was so stupid. I was kind of like a political punk kid at the time, and I was like, I don't want to be singing a song about literally nothing, like dogs liking waffles. And yeah, that kind of inspired my vocal performance, which is just terrible and annoying because I thought the song was terrible and annoying. But yeah, I had like no sense of humor, I guess, back then. But yeah, so that's why I added that little thing at the end where I'm like, T. Thomas made me sing this song. Are you happy now? Because I really didn't want to. But yeah, that's DLW for you. Really annoying vocal performance by me because I thought the song was annoying. But looking back, it's so short and stupid that it's kind of like, it's nothing to be annoyed by, really. Alright, track 4 is Sculptor's Cut, which is actually one of the few songs, one of 2 songs that I wrote and recorded completely by myself for the band. But this was the only real song that I wrote for the band, because the first one was the song Said to Be Horrible But Wasn't, which wasn't a real song. It was like a weird demo test kind of song. But this one was actually a real song. And this song is the only song I've ever written that was written, recorded, and released in the same day, March 11, 2015. I'm still pretty proud of that. Because at that time, we were just young kids, you know, like we didn't really care about anything. Now I spend like months and months with a mix, but back in those days, we did stuff so fast. And we just didn't really care, and I guess that was kind of a beautiful thing. And how this song came about is when we originally got the idea to do an EP, I think Thomas had suggested that I record a track by myself, and I suddenly got inspired to write this song. And this song, the inspiration behind this song was actually a Lawrence Arms song called Heaven Help Me, which was a hidden track on their Ghost Stories LP, which I loved at that time. So this song is kind of like a direct ripoff of Heaven Help Me, honestly. For anybody who knows that song, it's such a great song. This was kind of my attempt at doing a song like that. I remember it like it was yesterday because that morning of March 11th, it was like a rainy day, and I was sitting in my mom's back seat, getting ready to be dropped off at school, and I was listening to Ghost Stories, and that song came on, and I was like, man, this song is so cool. And yeah, the lyrics just flowed out of me. I remember I wrote the lyrics so fast, and usually I change lines and I kind of overthink lyrics, but this song, like I barely even changed any lines. If you actually look, you can go on the Sensitive Nachos website. I still have the original lyric sheet to this song, and I put it up on that site under the photos section, so you can see that almost all the lyrics I kept. So yeah, I don't know, it's one of those songs that just came about so fast, and it just felt right at that time. This was also one of the first songs that I wrote lyrically that was not a true story. Usually I always wrote about personal things, but this song I just completely made up the story. The characters aren't real, I made them all up. And yeah, that was kind of a different thing for me at the time because I didn't really write like that. But there's a lot of references in the lyrics, like daily shutout past the Richie leaves, sort of a visual of, growing up playing baseball. Richie obviously standing for Port Richie or Newport Richie. And yeah, and the title of the song, Sculptor's Cut, is actually a reference to the incredibly rare N64 game, Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut. So yeah, I have a couple different songs named after like retro games, and this is one of them. But I also liked how it could kind of have like a double meaning, because I didn't really write songs of the band, so like Sculptor's Cut was kind of like a funny title to me. But yeah, that's where the title came from. Musically, it's a very, very simple song. It's just the same chords repeated over and over and over again. The same 4 chords. I didn't know many chords, so I pretty much just like stuck with the chord progression, then I would just use it throughout the entire song, which is kind of a shame because I wish there was a little bit more of some switch-ups in this song, but I think it works. The simplicity is kind of charming, I guess. There's a certain ignorance to it. But yeah, I don't know. I've always really liked this song for some random reason. And yeah, I guess the chords kind of work for it. As far as actually recording this song goes, I'm surprised I was able to finish it the day that I started recording it, because there's kind of a lot going on. And for this song, it was obviously just me. Every single voice you hear in the song is just me. The guitar playing is just me. Which really, the song didn't take long to record. It was just that opening crowd segment that it took forever, because it was me doing all those voices. So for those who don't know the song actually starts off with kind of like a fictional bar scenario where a guy is getting ready to play a song, and there's like a really loud crowd, which kind of keeps him from performing the song without any interruptions. And yeah, that was kind of an interesting idea to me at the time. I don't know why I decided to do that whole crowd like skit, but I'm glad that I did. At the time, I was obviously inspired by Heaven Help Me, and I was also inspired by the Bowling for Soup song All Figured Out, which also features like a crowd segment where they're kind of like sitting around talking at a bar, and a country kind of guitar solo is being played. So that's kind of why I decided to do that. I thought it would be interesting. At the time, I was not familiar with Typo Negative's second record, which to me is like the perfect example of, the self-made crowd. But yeah, and I had so much fun making the crowd noises and like just coming up with really weird things to say and doing all those crazy Southern accents. Of course, at the time, I didn't think about, like, is it insensitive to do a Southern accent? You never want to seem like you're making fun of somebody, but it was definitely in total admiration, It was just, like, just a really goofy, silly song, and the things that I say in the bar are just so silly. Like, there's one where I say, play the Watermelon song, and that's a reference to a song that I wrote, like, 2 years before, and there's also, like, there's a ton of references in this song. Like there's a reference to Hey Ho Billy Joe, which is reference to Green Day and the Nice Guys Finished Last music video. And a lot of the lines are pretty much just me like coming up with things like playing sloppy like your father. That's a good one. And you can also hear that there's like the sounds of like, I guess like beer bottles being clinked. That was something that I added I took one of my mom's like wine glasses, and then I took a fork and I just like kept beating the fork against the wine glass to create that effect. Like you're at a bar and, glasses are being clinked and people are cheering. Yeah, so that was me taking my mom's wine glasses and doing that in front of the microphone. Oh yeah, and as far as my acoustic guitar setup, I used my Ibanez Talman TCY10, and I just set up my M Audio Producer USB microphone on the bed, and I would just like play my guitar and kind of point the whole of the guitar towards the mic a little bit. So yeah, I didn't know anything about recording acoustic guitar. I didn't know anything about anything. Recording, mixing. I just kind of, recorded, and then that was that. I ended up actually re-recording this song for my solo project Pootie, because it always bothered me that this song wasn't a Pootie song, because it was a Pootie song, because it was recorded completely by myself, it was written completely by myself, and I always wanted it in the Pootie catalog. So I re-recorded it. It came out on the Rip Slack compilation record, but a lot of the lines are taken from the Sensitive Nachos version, so I had to like recreate the crowd scenario. But in the Pootie version, there was like proper panning, because I didn't really know about panning back in the old Sensitive Nachos days. So I think the crowd came out better on the Pootie version, but I like the music and the vocals better on the Sensitive Nachos version. I think the Pootie version is way too fast, and I sing like really high and do this crazy vibrato thing. I like the vocals a lot more on the Sensitive Nachos one because I just feel a bit rougher, or I feel a bit rougher. My vocal style is like a bit rougher and more laid back. I just like it a little bit better. So yeah, but I always wanted the song as a Pootie song, and I made it happen. But yeah, this is an interesting cut. It's pretty much the only song I ever wrote for the band. And still proud of this one in hindsight, even though it's kind of strange and a very, very simple song with the same chords being repeated over and over again. But I still get a kick out of it, and I respect it. Anyway, the last track on the album is track 5, HBS. Like I was saying earlier, this song has the same exact music as DLW. This song, once again, was written by Thomas, but he sings this one instead of DLW, which I sing. And, the lyrics are pretty much just a happy birthday to Storm Summers, who was a friend of Thomas's. She actually sat at the loser table with us in 9th grade, but I never really knew her. I never spoke to her. Pretty much strictly just Thomas's friend. And, yeah, he just wanted to wish her a happy birthday in song. And I like how it goes, "Fuck you, just kidding." That's kind of funny. But yeah, kind of an odd ending, but I guess it works for the EP. Another really short song. I like this one better than DLW, because at least it has somewhat of a purpose and meaning. I wonder if she listens to it on her birthday. Definitely not. I don't even remember her caring all that much that we did this song for her. But yeah, that's all the EP for you. A very short EP. It's only 5 songs long. We managed to finish it the night we set out to release it. So yeah, we recorded it on March 11th, and it got released on March 11th, later that night, which is really exciting. The artwork I did in Microsoft Paint, and it was based on a single artwork that I did for our Valentine's Day Sucks single, which was released, then taken down, but the artwork that I made for it was never released. I kind of explained that story in the Prime Galime episode, so it doesn't really matter. But I got the inspiration to use a pink background and draw the hearts from that single, which I also created, so I was inspired by myself. But yeah, I like the artwork to this one because it depicts, Thomas with a mohawk, and then seeing Alyssa with that Hello Kitty red and white backpack walking away from him, and him awkwardly waving, "Wait, I want to talk to you." As far as the title goes, Thomas came up with the title, Broken Bones, Broken Homes, and Floor Lamps. Very pop punk, very emo, kind of funny at the same time. I believe it was a reference to Real Friends or one of those pop punk bands like that. I don't quite remember. But yeah, that's the EP for you. It was also sequenced by Thomas, so Thomas came up with the sequencing as well. Released on March 11th. Once again, nobody listened to this EP. It did terribly. Maybe 2 people listened to it. And that was that. We went on to working on By Losers for Losers. But we did do a live performance on March 24th at River Ridge High School at the Loser Stairs. So yeah, this wasn't an official performance. It was just something that Thomas decided to do with Justin Tongle of Defective. We were just hey, why don't, before school, we just grab some guitars and just play to our friends at the Loser Stairs, and that's what we decided to do. And I even made a flyer for it, which you can actually see on the Sensitive Nachos website, but I get the date wrong in the flyer. I put it as the 23rd, but apparently it happened on the 24th. But yeah, I knew nothing about making flyers, and it's the ugliest flyer of all time, but it knows that. So yeah, so we would show up to school. I think we invited we didn't really have many friends. Maybe only 2 other people showed up. Justin Tongle went first, which was really cool seeing him perform because I really liked the Defective albums. I thought they were pretty interesting. And he was doing his thing. And then we went on second, and yeah, it's the performance is actually available on YouTube. If you go to our website, you can also find it in the video section, and it is just terrible. I mean, Thomas is great, but I don't even know what I'm doing there, because whenever I see that video, I just cringe. Mostly because it's just me awkwardly sitting down next to Thomas, wearing a really strange outfit, these plaid shorts and a white shirt, and I just look so skinny and frail, and I'm so uncomfortable and awkward, because I really was an awkward kid, especially back in those days, and I just felt so uncomfortable, a bunch of people watching me, and especially because I didn't have an instrument, and we started off with Alyssa, which I don't have any parts to, and Thomas made me sit next to him. I wanted to be in the crowd and just do my parts from there, but he was no, you gotta sit next to me because you're in the band. So it's just so uncomfortable to watch. We also do I Dated a Mirage in a Garage, then a little bit of My Foot is Stuck in a Boot at the end there. And we also attempt Scavenger Type by NoFX, which was a song that Thomas wanted me to learn so I could play guitar for one song. But I was really lazy back in those days, so I learned like the first chord and then it just falls apart. But yeah, such an uncomfortable thing to watch for me. I was just so awkward. And I remember like Thomas's mom like seeing that, and I guess she commented a few things about it, how like Thomas was the only guy with talent, and and that like I looked like a prep or something like that, and I don't know, it's kind of funny, but she was right about it all nonetheless. So that is Broken Bones, Broken Homes, and Floor Lamps for you. It came out, nobody cared, and we started to work on our next record, which we were already working on. Again, this EP was so spontaneous, it just kind of came out of nowhere. But again, I feel like it could have been better if we had Dear That One Girl and Part 2 on it, the entire Alyssa trilogy on it. I think it just would have been a better EP. Actually, it probably would have been an album, I guess, at that point. But anyway, that's the EP for you. Stay tuned for next week, the epic finale to this Sensitive Nachos look back, where I discuss the final album, By Losers for Losers. See you guys next week. This is CJ McKenna signing off once again. Bye!